Hey friends, Anna here, and I just wanted to address something that I've seen in a lot of my clients recently and just friends. And there's just this struggle right now around being able to really eat the foods that you know you should eat that make you feel good, or maybe you've been trying a particular diet and it's just so hard to stick with it. And there have been a lot of struggles around emotional eating and food cravings, and usually that has everything to do with stress and emotions, and has nothing to do with your level of willpower or your level of desire. And so I want to give you some keys that I recently gave to a client that were very helpful for her, and I hope they'll be helpful for you. And the first thing I want to say is that health is a mindset. It has much less to do with all of the things that you should be doing or not doing. That's a component, and that's important, and that's more of like a manifestation of the right mindset. So we want to start with the mind. So health begins in the mind and in the mindsets. So rather than focusing in on, what you can't have, a particular client I was talking to just a few minutes ago, she's so focused on what she can't have. She's so focused on the fact that she's messing up her diet. She's so focused on the food rules and the obsession with those rules, and it really is stealing her life. It's stealing her ability to just enjoy her life. It's turning her focus towards what she can't have, which is causing stress. It's causing inflammation. And so these are some of the keys that I gave to her to kind of switch the mindset over towards a mindset that's actually empowering. It's actually going to help her move her health forward, and it's going to give her back her life. Because for many people, when the body says no, to borrow the phrase, when it will no longer let you do the dieting thing anymore, and you just find that, I'm trying so hard, but I just can't keep to some restricted diet, or I just can't seem to do what I used to do in terms of willpower. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's that your body is, and your whole mind and your whole being is wanting to take it to the next level. What it's wanting from you is to learn how to listen to yourself and to learn how to love yourself. And what that means in terms of food is these mindsets, these new mindsets that take you out of that stress response, out of that obsessiveness and that control and that restriction, and into the peace and the listening and the love. And I know those things may sound just like conceptual, but I want to give you some tools, some keys, what that actually looks like, what it looks like to really love yourself and to listen to yourself. So the first thing that you want to zero in on as you're trying to shift your mindset over from these old patterns to the new ones is really working on feeling your feelings rather than eating them. So what that means is we tend to eat sometimes when we're stressed, when we're overwhelmed, and or whenever we don't know what to do or we feel bored. There's a tendency to eat rather than really allowing ourselves to validate what we feel in that moment, because many of us were not trained to know how to work with our feelings. So we were kind of wired, sometimes unintentionally by our caretakers. When we're sad, they would give us something to eat, and so our minds become wired. When I'm sad, I eat, or when I don't know what to do, I eat. And so what we have to do for ourselves is learn how to allow ourselves to feel our feelings rather than stuffing them down with food. And the food is just the way the brain has learned how to comfort us, or to stuff some uncomfortable emotion down. But if you learn how to feel your feelings rather than eating them, it'll just take your whole level of self-understanding and self-love to a whole new level. So feel your feelings rather than eating them. And this is a whole process. So what I mean by this is there's a whole process behind this with the EFT tapping that I use. Helps you really feel into the feelings and let them move through you. Now, this doesn't have to take forever. Emotions have a shelf life of about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. But what we do is we stuff them down and we keep that energy vibrating in us longer. And so then we're in a bad way, because those emotions are stuffed down, and so they stick around longer. But when you actually allow yourself to feel whatever that is, sadness or anxiousness or frustration, when you allow yourself to feel that and maybe do a little EFT tapping, which is the modality that I use, when you allow yourself to do that, those emotions just move through you rather than getting stuck inside your system. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, when it comes to food, you want to focus on adding. Turn your mind away from, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this, to how can I add beautiful, live, whole, pure, congruent foods. I call these foods congruent because you are a live, whole, pure human being and you need live, whole, pure foods to live. Those foods are congruent with who you are. So zero in on adding. We don't want to focus on taking away because it causes that stress response. It causes us to sabotage ourselves. It causes us to zero in on things we don't want to focus in on. So focus on adding congruent foods. Notice what foods have worked for you in the past that are congruent, whole, live, pure foods, and get as many of those in your diet as you can. So number three, don't deprive, replace. This is the whole thing I focus on with trading. You want to trade the confusing, processed, yucky foods for a more congruent version. So for example, one of my clients was craving waffles, and she was like, oh, I just so want waffles. And I was like, have waffles. Just have a more congruent version of those. And so the congruent version would be maybe something like a paleo waffle recipe with like almond flour or, a nut butter of some kind, depending on what foods you know that work for you. There's so many options out there. There's so much online that you can find, but replace for a more congruent version. And then you it's a win-win. Your body loves it, your taste buds love it, and you can relax in knowing that you're not harming yourself while you're enjoying this food. Okay. So that's number three. Number four is how you eat is just as important as what you eat. This is a biggie because so many people in our American culture are really fast eaters, and we're not necessarily feeling our food as it's entering our body. We're not necessarily relaxed as the food is entering our body. We are more so checking something off the list, or we're eating some bad food, and we're eating it so quickly so we can kind of, in a sense, trick our mind to think, I'm not actually eating this, So you don't want to do that. What we want to do is zero in on, number one, bringing your body into a place of peace before you eat. So this is taking a few deep breaths or doing some tapping before you eat to bring your whole nervous system into a relaxed state. So bringing your body to a place of peace before you eat. Sometimes people will take 5 deep breaths. Sometimes, I do a little tapping. It just doesn't matter what it is so long as you feel relaxed before you eat. Then what you want to do is zero in on eating slowly, savoring and enjoying every single bite, and just no matter what food you're eating, even if you're eating super confusing foods, I want you to just savor and slowly enjoy every bite, because what happens is your body is in a physiological relaxation response, and it can actually absorb and digest and assimilate any nutrients that are in there way better than if you just were in a stress response, a tense response. Your body will take that food and it's going to compromise your digestion. It's not going to really be able to assimilate that food, and you're not going to really enjoy it. If you're going to have some quote unquote not great food, you want to go ahead, or bad food, you want to go ahead and just enjoy it fully, right? So you'll also find that when you stop and kind of slow down and really taste and feel and savor the food, you start to notice how much you actually want it or not. You're not going through the motions, you're actually feeling it and noticing it. And sometimes it's a lot easier to let go of foods that you used to think you really loved just by slowing down and really tasting them. I remember whenever I tasted a regular processed chocolate chip cookie, for the first time after not having it for a while, I noticed it actually tasted kind of chemically. It didn't taste near as good as what I thought it did, because I was slowing down, I was actually tasting it, and my taste buds had shifted over a little bit to actually taste some of the gross chemical stuff in there. So you'll notice that there's some interesting shifts that happen when you focus on the how to eat, the slowing down, the savoring. And on that note, we're really wired to just be able to relax and really deeply enjoy our food. And I was someone gave me a chocolate bar the other day that on the back of it, next to the ingredients, it had this list of these steps on how to eat the chocolate bar, how to enjoy the chocolate bar to its fullest potential. And the first step was something like just breaking it open and looking at it and smelling it. And then take a tiny taste and just notice the flavor and the texture and let it roll around your tongue. And it just went through all these steps, and I thought, wow, that's how we should enjoy food, is just to really savor the experience and not just make it as something we go through the motions. So not only will your taste buds love that, but your body will love that. Okay, number 5. This is a biggie for those of you who are chronic dieters, or you're zeroed in on, you're so focused in on what you're doing wrong, and you're so focused in on, in a sense, punishing yourself after you've done something wrong. And so I like to say, after you've eaten something, you want to remember every moment is new. So if you've eaten something bad, or that you didn't want to eat, or you're right in the middle of eating something and you're like, man, this isn't really what I want, but part of your brain is thinking, I should just eat it anyway because I've just failed, and I'm a loser and I messed this whole thing up. You want to start to rewire your brain over to realizing that every single moment is new. Because this is the place where you get to step into self-forgiveness. This is the place where you can really love yourself in the present moment and be like, at this moment, maybe the moment right before this, I was eating food that really isn't congruent for me, or that I really don't want, or I was emotionally eating. But in this moment, I caught myself not really loving myself in this way. So in this moment, I'm going to give myself permission to fully forgive and to move on. And this can be so powerful when you bring yourself right into the present moment, the here and now, and you realize every moment is new. I can forgive myself, I can move forward, and I can be done with the old stuff. So I hope these 5 tips have been helpful. This is all of this stuff is all about really learning the tools and the mindsets to love your body and to love yourself, rather than performing and striving and getting into that pressured, obsessive thinking about food and about your body. And the more that you do these steps, the more that you're going to find that you get your life back, and it's a really beautiful thing. So much love to you all, and I'll speak to you again soon.